Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Speak English Podcast, your favorite podcast for improving your English and exploring interesting life topics. I'm Mark, your host, here to guide you through another engaging discussion.
Hello, everyone. I'm Lisa, your co-host, and I'm excited to share practical insights and tips with all of you. So, Mark, what are we talking about today?
Today's topic is one I think we can all relate to. Procrastination. Lisa, let me ask you, have you ever found yourself putting off something important until the very last minute?
Oh, Mark, you have no idea. It happens more often than I'd like to admit. Procrastination can feel like an invisible enemy. It sneaks up on you, leaving you stressed and overwhelmed. But the good news is, we can learn to overcome it.
That's right. In today's episode, we'll break down what procrastination is, why it happens, and most importantly, how to beat it. We'll also dive into some advanced English vocabulary and phrases to help you talk about procrastination fluently.
And if you've ever felt guilty or anxious because you procrastinated, this episode is here to show you that you're not alone and to help you find ways to move forward.
So grab a cup of coffee or tea, get comfortable, and let's get started. Lisa, let's start with the basics. What exactly is procrastination?
Procrastination is when you delay or avoid doing something, even though you know it's important. For example, let's say you have a big project due next week. Instead of starting it today, you might spend hours scrolling through social media or watching YouTube videos, telling yourself, I'll start later.
Sounds familiar. And procrastination isn't just about being lazy. Studies show that it's often linked to emotional factors, like fear of failure, perfectionism, or even feeling overwhelmed by the task.
Exactly. Sometimes we procrastinate because we're not sure where to start, or because the task feels so big that we don't think we can handle it.
And here's the ironic part. Procrastination usually leads to more stress. The longer we delay, the more anxious we feel. And that anxiety makes it even harder to get started.
It's a vicious cycle, Mark. But the good news is, with the right strategies, we can break that cycle. Coming up, we'll share some practical tips to help you stop procrastinating and take control of your time.
Before we dive into the solutions, let's take a closer look at why we procrastinate. Lisa, what do you think are some of the main reasons?
Well, one big reason is perfectionism. When we set unrealistically high standards for ourselves, we might avoid starting a task because we're afraid it won't be perfect.
That's a great point. Another reason is fear of failure. If we think there's a chance we might mess up, it's easier to delay starting than to face that fear head-on.
And then there's decision fatigue. When we have too many choices or tasks to focus on, our brains get overwhelmed, and we end up doing nothing at all.
I've definitely been there. Another factor is instant gratification. It's more tempting to scroll through TikTok or play a game than to sit down and tackle a challenging task.
And don't forget about lack of motivation. Sometimes we just don't feel like doing the work, even if we know it's important.
Knowing why we procrastinate is the first step to overcoming it. Now, let's talk about some actionable strategies to help you take control.
Let's start with my favorite tip. Break it down. When a task feels overwhelming, divide it into smaller, more manageable steps. For example, if you need to write a report, start with a simple task like brainstorming ideas.
That's a great strategy. Another tip is to use the Pomodoro technique. Set a timer for 25 minutes and focus on just one task. When the timer goes off, take a 5-minute break. It's amazing how much you can accomplish in just a few focused sessions.
Absolutely. And speaking of breaks, don't forget to reward yourself. After completing a task, treat yourself to something you enjoy, whether it's a cup of coffee, a short walk, or an episode of your favorite show.
Another key is to eliminate distractions. If your phone keeps buzzing with notifications, put it on Do Not Disturb mode or leave it in another room while you work.
That's so important. And here's a bonus tip. Create a routine. Set aside specific times each day for certain tasks, like studying or working. When you build a habit, it reduces the need to make decisions about when to start.
Lisa, what do you think about accountability? Does it help?
Oh, definitely. Sharing your goals with a friend or joining a study group can keep you motivated. Knowing that someone else is counting on you can push you to stay on track.
Great point. And let's not forget about self-compassion. If you slip up and procrastinate, don't beat yourself up. Instead, focus on what you can do differently next time.
Now, let's learn some useful English vocabulary related to procrastination. Procrastinate, to delay or postpone something. Example, don't procrastinate. Start your homework now. Deadline, the time or date by which something must be completed. Example, the project deadline is next Monday. Task, a piece of work that needs to be done. Example, I have several tasks to finish today. Overwhelmed, feeling like you have too much to handle. Example, she felt overwhelmed by all the assignments. Prioritize, to decide what's most important and focus on that. Example, it's important to prioritize your tasks to avoid stress. Focus, to concentrate your attention on something. Example, I need to focus on studying for my exam. Motivation, the drive or reason to do something. Example, finding motivation to start can be the hardest part. Productivity, the ability to get things done efficiently. Example, taking breaks can actually boost your productivity.
These are excellent words, Lisa. Let's encourage our listeners to practice using them in sentences or conversations this week.
Mark, let's share a bit about our own struggles with procrastination. Have you ever been caught in the procrastination trap?
Oh, definitely. I remember a time in college when I waited until the night before to write a 10-page paper. I barely slept and the stress was unbearable. But it taught me the importance of starting early.
I can relate to that. For me, it's usually about chores. I'll convince myself that I can clean the kitchen later, but then I end up feeling even more stressed when the mess piles up.
It's so relatable. And that's why it's important to remind ourselves that even small steps forward are better than staying stuck.
Absolutely. So, listeners, what about you? Have you struggled with procrastination? What strategies have worked for you? Share your stories in the comments or send us a message. We'd love to hear from you.
To wrap up, overcoming procrastination is all about taking small, consistent steps. Start with one tip, whether it's breaking down tasks, using the Pomodoro technique, or building better habits, and see how it works for you.
And remember, procrastination is a common challenge. Don't be too hard on yourself. Progress takes time, and every small step counts.
Thank you for joining us today.
Until next time, stay focused, stay motivated, and keep making progress, both in life and in your English journey. Bye!